In the blinding glare of the world's most powerful spotlight, one figure has remained almost entirely in the shadows. He's a member of one of the most famous, most scrutinized families on the planet, yet he is, by all accounts, a ghost. He lives a life of unimaginable luxury, a prince in a modern-day dynasty, yet he's also a captive, surrounded by a fortress of security that dictates his every move. This is the story of Barron Trump, the 19-year-old who grew up in a gilded cage, transitioned to the White House bubble, and is now navigating adulthood as arguably one of the most private public figures in the world. For years, we've been fed a steady diet of speculation and fleeting glimpses. We see the towering height, the sharp suits, the quiet presence standing just behind his father on stages broadcast to billions. But these are just pixels on a screen, an image that reveals nothing of the person within. The truth is far more complex, a reality carefully shaped by a fiercely protective mother, the crushing weight of a global microscope, and a personality that seems to reject the very fame that defines his family. What almost no one realizes is how this unprecedented upbringing has forged a young man unlike any other presidential child in history, one who is simultaneously at the center of the world and determined to live on its edge. We're about to uncover the surprising reality of his guarded life, and what it's truly like to grow up Trump, while the world watched his father's every move. The most influential Trump might have been the one no one was watching. This isn't just a tale of a rich kid shielded from the press. This is the story of how Barron Trump, a college freshman who connects with friends over gaming networks, quietly became a trusted advisor to his father, credited by his parents with helping shape campaign outreach to young voters without ever giving a public speech. How did this intensely private young man, once described as being watched like a zoo animal on his own college campus, become a hidden hand in a presidential campaign? The answer reveals a paradox that lies at the heart of what no one realizes about Barron Trump. To understand the man Barron is becoming, you have to go back to the world he was born into. On March 20, 2006, Barron William Trump entered a life that was anything but ordinary. He was the first and only child of Donald Trump and his third wife, Melania, born into a universe of staggering wealth and celebrity. From the moment he was born, he was destined for a life under a microscope, yet his mother made it her mission to build a fortress of privacy around him, long before the White House. There was Trump Tower, a 68-story monument to opulence on Fifth Avenue. You could say this was Barron's first gilded cage. While most kids have a bedroom, Barron reportedly had an entire floor to himself. Melania once revealed in an interview that this was his living room, his bedroom, and his playroom, all in one. As a toddler, he wasn't in typical kid's clothes. He was often dressed in suits, a miniature version of his famous father. His mother mentioned his early love for planes and helicopters, symbols of the freedom his life would, in many ways, lack. But this luxury came with a kind of isolation. Melania was known for being a hands-on mother, a stark contrast to many high families. She was the primary caregiver in his life, reportedly cooking his breakfast and preparing his lunches. This deep involvement was the first layer of the protective shield she would build around her son. She encouraged his creativity, famously allowing him to draw on the walls of his personal floor, fostering a sense of self within their lavish but insular world. A crucial and often overlooked part of his early life was his bilingual upbringing. Melania, a native of Slovenia, made sure her heritage was a cornerstone of Barron's childhood. He grew up speaking both English and Slovene fluently, often chatting with his maternal grandmother in her native tongue. This made him one of the few presidential children in modern American history to be truly bilingual from a young age, giving him a connection to a world outside the Trump name, a cultural identity that was his and his alone. He was essentially raised as an only child. His four half-siblings, Donald Jr., Ivanka, Eric, and Tiffany, were all much older, ranging from 12 to 28 years his senior. This age gap meant he didn't share their childhood experiences. While they were already navigating their roles in the Trump organization and public life, Barron was living a much more sheltered existence. He attended prestigious private schools in Manhattan, like the Columbia Grammar and Preparatory School. But his life was a highly managed routine. Even his father, Donald Trump, seemed surprised when he learned of Melania's pregnancy in 2005. Barron's arrival marked a different chapter in the Trump saga. He wasn't just another heir for the family business. He was the son of Melania, a woman who valued privacy in a way the rest of the family didn't. She was his closest confidant, and her fierce protection was clear long before politics entered their lives. This period forged his personality. He was surrounded by wealth but curated by a mother determined to give him a normal life, a task that was about to get a lot harder. When Donald Trump won the presidency in November 2016, all eyes turned to his family. But while his adult children embraced the political spotlight, a different strategy was used for his youngest son. 10-year-old Barron became a subject of intense fascination. Not for anything he did, but for what he was. The first young boy to live in the White House since John F. Kennedy, Jr. nearly 60 years earlier. The transition was jarring. On election night, as his father gave a victory speech in the early morning hours, cameras zoomed in on Barron, who looked exhausted. What was a normal reaction for any kid up past his bedtime became a national talking point. It was a brutal introduction to his new reality. Every gesture, every expression, was now public property. Melania Trump, recognizing the pressure, made an unprecedented move. She and Barron didn't move into the White House right away. Instead, they stayed in their Trump Tower penthouse for 5 more months so Barron could finish his school year in New York. It was a clear signal of her priorities. Her son's stability came first. This delay, however, only made people more curious about the boy who was, for a time, an absentee first son. When he finally moved to Washington, D.C. that summer and enrolled at St. Andrew's Episcopal School in Maryland, the protective bubble his mother had built was reinforced with the steel of the Secret Service. His life became a carefully choreographed routine of school, home, and occasional, highly managed public appearances. Still, the scrutiny was relentless and often cruel. He was the target of online bullying and baseless rumors. A comedian faced backlash for a tweet mocking him, forcing an unlikely defender to emerge. Chelsea Clinton, having grown up in the White House herself, she publicly called for Barron to be given the privacy every child deserves, tweeting that he deserves the chance every child does to be a kid. This constant surveillance made a normal life impossible. While his classmates could join sports teams or hang out after school, Barron's every move was shadowed by security, making spontaneous friendships a challenge. His public appearances were rare, boarding Air Force One, standing on balconies, or attending the annual turkey pardoning. He was almost always in a suit, looking solemn and reserved. This led to a perception of him as a quiet, distant figure, the total opposite of his boisterous father. His mother's protectiveness became legendary. Media reports suggested she renegotiated her prenuptial agreement after the 2016 election to ensure Barron's financial future and inheritance would be on par with his older siblings. She was the gatekeeper of his life, shielding him from what she could when his father's term ended in January 2021. Barron was notably absent from the final speech. The family moved to their Mar-a-Lago estate in Florida, and Barron enrolled at the Oxbridge Academy in West Palm Beach. The White House years were over, but the experience had shaped him. He had spent his formative teen years in the most public of houses, yet had emerged as the most private of individuals. The constant scrutiny hadn't broken him. It had hardened him into a person who understood, perhaps better than anyone, the cost of fame. So what happens when a kid grows up knowing the world is watching, but actively decides not to perform for it? This is the central paradox of Barron Trump. Far from being a reluctant participant in public life, all signs suggest he's the chief architect of his own privacy. His quiet demeanor isn't just a result of his mother's protection. It's a conscious choice, a personal philosophy that's the complete opposite of his family's brand. Those in the know consistently say his personality is far more like his mother's than his father's. Where Donald is loud and craves the spotlight, Barron is reserved and poised. An insider noted, he is much more like his mother, Melania. He keeps his head down and gets on with it. This isn't shyness, it's a strategy for self-preservation. He isn't trying to be the big man on campus or leverage his name for social clout. This preference for a low profile shapes his social life. In an age where his peers document everything on Instagram and TikTok, Barron is a digital ghost. He has no public social media accounts, which is remarkable for a 19-year-old, let alone one with his last name. But that doesn't mean he's disconnected. He's found a way to engage on his own terms. Reports have suggested his main ways of communicating with friends are through gaming networks and chat platforms like Discord. It's a brilliant, modern solution to an unprecedented problem. It gives him the connection of friendship without the risk of public exposure. His interests also highlight his independent streak. During his White House years, he had a passion for soccer, even playing for DC United's youth academy as a midfielder. And while his dad is a real estate magnate, his own talents seem to lie elsewhere. His father has openly marveled at his son's tech skills, admitting he's got an unbelievable aptitude in technology. But perhaps the most telling display of his mindset came in May 2024. He was invited to make his political debut as a delegate for Florida at the Republican National Convention, a role his siblings eagerly accepted. It would have been his formal entry into the family business. The world waited. The answer came swiftly. Through his mother's office, he regretfully declined the invitation, citing prior commitments. The message was clear. He would not be a political pawn. He would choose his own path, on his own schedule. What emerges is a portrait of a young man who is methodical, intelligent, and fiercely independent. He's not a recluse, but someone who curates his interactions with surgical precision. He understands the power and the peril of his name, and he has, it seems, made a calculated decision to opt out. He is a Trump, yes, but he is his own man. This quiet resolve would soon be put to the test when he left the shelter of Mar-a-Lago for one of the most public environments imaginable, a college campus in New York City. In the fall of 2024, Barron Trump started college. For any other 18-year-old, it's a standard rite of passage. For him, it was a seismic shift. He enrolled as a freshman at New York University, a school known for its vibrant, diverse, and overwhelmingly liberal student body. His father had mentioned the family alma mater, the University of Pennsylvania. But Barron chose NYU. His arrival on campus was anything but normal. It's reported that instead of a dorm, he lives at home in the family's Trump Tower penthouse, commuting to classes a few miles away. His mother, Melania, has said it was his decision to study in New York and live at home. But his commute isn't a simple subway ride. He reportedly travels in a motorcade of black SUVs, flanked by a constant detail of plainclothes, Secret Service agents. Life at NYU has been a social experiment under a microscope. How could it not be? One fellow student described him as being watched like a zoo animal, a curiosity that everyone was aware of but few could approach. His routine was simple: go to class, then go home. The security detail makes joining clubs or grabbing a spontaneous slice of pizza with classmates a massive logistical challenge. The environment underscored the unique pressures he faced. As his mother acknowledged in an interview, "I don't think it's possible for him to be a normal student. His experience at college is very different than any other kid." Yet, despite the hurdles, recent reports suggest Barron has found his footing. A source told People magazine he was popular and described him as tall and handsome. This hints at an ability to navigate a complex social world, relying on his own personality rather than his family name. He is reportedly studying business and seems to be focusing on his academics while maintaining that signature low profile. He is carving out a private life in the most public of cities. The intense curiosity remains, but it's fueled more by his mysterious nature than by anything he does. He has succeeded in becoming a face in the crowd, albeit a famously tall, 6'7" face that arrives in a motorcade. His college years are the ultimate test of the private world. He and his mother so carefully built. He's proving that it's possible to live in the spotlight but refuse to be illuminated by it. As Barron Trump settles into college life, public curiosity has shifted to more personal matters: his relationships, his wealth, and the big question of his future. What's becoming clear is that while he may be dodging the political arena, he's quietly starting to build a life of his own. For years, his personal life was a complete mystery, but as he navigated his freshman year at NYU, that started to change. In the spring of 2025, reports emerged from campus sources that Barron was in his first serious relationship. A friend on campus told NewsNation, "Barron has a really nice girlfriend and hangs out with her a lot." The young woman's identity remains private, which is perfectly in character for Barron. And what about his finances? While it's no surprise, he has access to wealth. He's also shown an entrepreneurial streak. In July 2024, he and two partners quietly incorporated a real estate company called Trump, Fulcher and Roxborough Capital Inc. The venture was dissolved just 4 months later, reportedly, to avoid media attention after his father's election victory. A partner confirmed they plan to relaunch, showing Barron has an interest in following his father's business footsteps, but on his own terms. So, what does the future hold? This is the ultimate question. Unlike his politically ambitious siblings, Barron has shown a clear and consistent disinterest in that world. He declined a delegate role, he rarely appears at political events, and he has never made a public political statement. And yet, here's the paradox. He's been credited as a quiet, but key, advisor in his father's 2024 campaign. Both of his parents have mentioned that Barron understood the youth vote. Melania said her son was very vocal in his advice, encouraging his father to appear on popular podcasts, which she believes brought in so many young people. This might be the ultimate secret of Barron Trump. His influence is wielded from behind a curtain of silence. He seems to understand modern media, technology, and the mindset of his generation. His father thinks his aptitude is in technology, while Barron himself is laying the groundwork for a career in real estate. The public sees a quiet, towering figure and wonders if he'll one day run for office. But the reality is likely more nuanced. He may be the first Trump to understand that in the 21st century, true power doesn't always require a podium. It can be exercised from a laptop, with a quiet word of advice to one of the most powerful people in the world. He's an enigma with the world at his feet, who seems to want nothing more than to be left alone to conquer it on his own terms. The story of Barron Trump is full of contradictions. He's a child of immense privilege who has had a uniquely isolating life. He's the son of a man who thrives on attention, yet he has become a master of privacy. He has been shielded from the world his entire life, yet he may understand its modern currents better than any of his famous relatives. What no one realizes about Barron Trump isn't just one thing. It's that his mother has waged a ferocious, lifelong campaign to protect him. It's that his quiet nature isn't a weakness, but a conscious choice to reject the chaotic fame that defines his family. And it's the depth of his behind-the-scenes influence. A quiet strategist who helped shape campaign outreach while remaining a ghost to the public. From the gilded cage of Trump Tower to the White House bubble. And now to the watchful eyes on his NYU campus, Barron has navigated a life no one could have prepared him for. He isn't his father's copy, nor is he just his mother's son. He's a product of their two worlds, the bombast and the subtlety, and he's building something entirely new. He is forging his own path, quietly building relationships and a business, all while the world speculates about who he is. He remains an enigma, a young man who has handled the most intense public scrutiny by simply refusing to acknowledge it. The one thing that seems certain is that Barron Trump will keep doing things his way, and the world will keep watching and wondering. If you found this look into Barron Trump's life fascinating, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the lives of the world's most intriguing figures. Let us know in the comments, what do you think the future holds for the most private member of the Trump family? Thanks for watching.